So today I'm going to show you how to take your video from looking and sounding like this to looking and sounding like this. Let's get into it. Chances are if you're watching this video, I don't have to go into the whole explanation into why you would want to use your cell phone before purchasing a camera system to shoot talking head videos like this or trying out any other content really. So we're going to skip all that and show you how you can do this simple desktop setup for yourself to elevate your content. Now, I love good image quality, but realistically, when we're talking about video and trying to communicate a message, good audio matters more than good image quality. Case in point, I'm going to artificially ruin what the image quality looks like, but you can hear me. And as long as I can get my point across and it's an engaging point and it's something that you want to listen to, you can still listen to the video, watch the video, and it's not really all that jarring. Alternatively, now you have perfect image quality, but my audio is really crunchy, and you tell me what's more difficult to watch. If you're going to sit down for 8 minutes to listen to me talk on a topic, which of these two is going to be a more pleasant experience? Probably the one with the really good audio. My phone these days is an iPhone 15 Pro Max, so I use a USB-C lavalier, specifically the Sennheiser XS USB-C lav. If you're using an Android device, the USB-C will work well as well. If you're using an older iPhone, you're going to need something with a lightning cable. You can still use a regular lav as well, but you're going to have to use a TRS to TRRS connector and then plug that into your wired headphone jack that comes with most phones these days. So you can do that, but you can probably already see that that's not only more steps, but it introduces more failure points along the stream. And the last thing you ever want to do is record an entire video, go to edit it, and then find out that you recorded absolutely no audio whatsoever. Now, if cost were no object, I'd recommend a wireless lav setup, specifically the DJI. I'll put a link down there if you've got a larger budget, but this is a pretty cost-effective approach to solving the audio problem for most people, especially for talking head videos. Now, I use an undercover setup over here. I've done a short on it in the past. If I can go into it in a separate video later. But you can clip the lavs wherever you'd like. I just avoid putting it around the collar if you have like a regular t-shirt on. Just keep it a little further away from your body and a little more centered. So when you turn left and right when you're speaking, it's not like you're fading in and out or anything like that. And just a note as we progress, I'm going to link the stuff that I use, but I'll also have links in the description below for different alternatives at a higher or lower price point as well. The next point is probably not so surprising, and that is lighting. Now, we can go crazy when it comes to lighting, but realistically, you just want one very small, very simple, and a soft light so you don't get like crazy shadows on your face. That's what you want for a setup like this. For my standard talking head video, I've got actually a very nifty, very compact setup, and if you want to see what my YouTube setup typically is, let me know in the comments below. I'll look into making a separate video on that later. But for this setup that I'm using right now, it's something you can pack down very quickly, something you can toss in your bag and set up in an office, set up in a hotel room. And what I use for this is an Aperture MC, the old one, which are now a lot cheaper than they used to be. And that's just the brand that I use because I'm tied into the Aperture system, but also I really like the functionality of this one because the app allows you to point your camera at, say, a room light. You know how hotels have those crazy orange lights? Copy that color, match it so that the output of the light matches that color, and that'll actually allow the auto white balance, we should talk into in a later video as well, how to set your white balance in apps and everything, but it will have your skin tones proper. Now, if you've ever tried to take a video at night and your skin was really orange or really green, or if you managed to get it colored properly, then the background had all kind of crazy colors, it's because the auto white balance is doing its best and typically does a pretty good job at reading the scene to determine what's white, and that's the base point that it uses to set like what the right skin tones are, what the right background colors are. It's a very in-depth topic. I don't want to get too sidetracked, but that's why you want a light that's at least bicolor. The Amran I'm talking about is an RGB light. It's got great onboard controls, and it has a great app as well, as I mentioned. And it's because this is something that allows you to build out a system, since it's in the Sidus Link mesh network that Aperture uses, that I recommend something like this. But I'm going to put a couple of other options for specifically bicolor lights, since we don't really need the RGB for something like this, unless you're like talking about gaming and you want to cast a really orange or red light on yourself. Totally different story. Creative liberty is all on you. But that's my reasoning for selecting this light in particular, especially since the new one is over twice the price of the one I'm using right now. The reality of the situation is a lot of us can't be bothered to set up the tripod, the lights, every time we want to record a video, and we usually end up recording it right on our desk. And when you're at your desk, the best light you typically have is probably the light from the monitor, which if you open up a blank document, you might get just a little more light on your face if you don't have any other options, but typically it ends up being the Gollum aesthetic. And if you're going to have someone swap you into a different background or something, something, if you outsource your editing, it does make having a clean cut that much more difficult as well. So having a very small, very portable light that doesn't need to be plugged in is a huge advantage in a setup like this, and that's why I'm recommending this Aperture MC. But again, I'm going to have a couple of alts for people at a higher and lower price point depending on what your budget is for this stuff. Now, the third thing, so here is a dilemma. We all know that the back cameras are much better quality, especially your main camera, than the selfie cam on our cell phones, but you can't frame yourself. Now, there have been a ton of contraptions over the years, like different mirrors and whatnot, that they work. They require a lot of adjustment every time you set up and break down, but they do work. And I've used them myself in the past, but they are kind of annoying, and eventually you just go back to using the selfie cam, which if you've got good audio and you're well lit, then it's really not that big of a problem. But again, if you're trying to differentiate yourself from everyone else in the space you're in, just by adding a little more polish, then you do want to use your phone's rear camera. And now we actually have a really easy way to do this. Hold on. With this magnetic selfie screen. Now this is great not only for vlogging, but if you do overhead videos, let me clip this back on. There we go. If you do overhead videos and you have to take your phone up really high, say you're baking, say you're doing product videos, you can actually use this as a wireless framing monitor as well. And I do that quite a bit for UCG content. I get sent to do shoppable videos on Amazon and other platforms. The value proposition of something like this is great, and I feel like having something like this for your phone eliminates the need to have a point-and-shoot camera at minimum with a selfie screen for 95% of people looking to actually start making content. The big advantage, of course, is that if I'm going to show you something, I know exactly what it is that I'm showing you. If I'm going to point something out in the background, there's my backpack. There's a photo I took down in DC of a Palestinian mural. That's at 600 T Street. I actually made a pretty good reel to show you how to take a photo like that when there are no lenses wide enough to actually capture an entire image. If you're someone who records yourself, you don't have anyone else to hit play or anything like that, the selfie screen is a huge assist. Also, if you're someone who demos things, if you're someone who, say for example, you're a personal trainer, you're a physical therapist, you need to show people something outside of this talking head setup. Well, first off, you'll need a wireless lav, not this thing. But secondly, because this is wireless, you can actually just walk back however far you need to walk back, make sure the framing is okay, and then go about your business. Just tuck it in your pocket or toss it on the floor. Just a very handy device that I don't know why no one ever made one until now. But it does exist, and they haven't sold out since I've seen them, so, you know, there you go. The fourth thing, I actually have 4 of these. Tabletop tripods. This is my favorite brand. The iFootage ones, this is the old version. They actually made an updated version. This is a great thing because you can already see this is a beefy boy. This is sturdy. You can mount your phone, your light, probably a couple of accessories if you wanted to as well, and you're not going to have a problem with that. I actually use these on the run and gun base of my cinema cameras. So if it can hold a cinema rig together, you're going to be okay with whatever your phone rig is. It's also a lot easier to raise a small tripod to kind of get to eye level. I'm a little below eye level here, than it is to lower a large tripod. So getting a large tripod and trying to set it up on your desk, or then setting it behind your desk, which logistically ends up being a nightmare if you're normally pressed up against the wall, or have like a full multi-monitor setup like I have on my desk here. This thing allows me to just tuck my phone set up in a little nook on my desk, frame myself accordingly, and just start recording. The last thing, which is free, is the Blackmagic Camera App, which is what I'm using to record this on now. That's great for 2 reasons. If you're an amateur, you can take advantage of things like locking in your frame rate, locking in your white balance very easily. This becomes especially helpful if you outsource over to another editor. They can actually give you some specifications that'll make you look better on camera. But also, you can use a feature that is really just available on pro cameras and like pro cinema cameras, not even high-end prosumer cameras. And that's something called onion skins. Onion skins allow you to frame things in different aspect ratios while still recording the full width of the sensor. So you can actually frame yourself for a 9:16 aspect ratio if you want to cut shorts and have vertical video and make sure certain things are in frame in that vertical video. And the best part about this is that this is all free. Now, if you want to take your production to a further level and you want to learn how to use cameras and everything, but you don't want to invest in a camera system because you're not sure if it's completely for you, this has full manual controls and it has all the pro tools a lot of cinema cameras don't have built in and actually require people to buy an external monitor that had those features built in order to use it. And when I say pro, I mean like really pro things like false color exposure, zebras, onion skins I was talking about, waveforms. It does shoot in a log profile. It does shoot in Apple ProRes. And these are things that are a really big deal because not only does it give editors a lot of flexibility when it comes to fixing things in post or developing a very specific look for you, if you end up getting a camera down the line, this will actually help editors match up the colors from this phone to that camera, allowing you to have a 2-camera setup and a more dynamic video overall. Everything here is just a very basic thing to elevate your content, but if you ever want to see a cell phone video production video where I'm actually using proper lights and maybe even aftermarket lenses, let me know in the comments below along with any questions you have about this stuff, and until then, catch you next time.